Hello and welcome to the Dits on Wrestling podcast. It has been a long ass time since I've sat in front of this microphone to do some recording. In fact, it's only been 2 weeks, but still it feels like a very, very long time. I haven't done that many episodes this year. When I've actually looked back at my catalogue for 2020, it is pretty dire. I haven't done much. That changes. This is now going to be more consistent. I'm going to try and get back into doing weekly episodes every single week. So you got to make sure that you're subscribed to this podcast on Apple Pods, and while you're there, why don't you leave a 5-star review? Why don't you actually leave a little actual review rather than just the stars, so I know where this thing's going. I know how well I'm doing. I love that kind of stuff. And then of course, if you're on Spotify, Stitcher, all those other good stuff, just make sure you follow, subscribe, whatever that podcast app offers, so you don't ever miss an episode of the show. Because why would you want to miss out? You don't want to miss out. We've got drafts. We've got theme song battles, which was the last episode, which was a hoot, by the way. So if you haven't gone and listened to that yet, go back. My first mate, Anthony, and myself destroy a lot of good theme songs. Yeah, it's interesting. It's the most clusterfuck episode of any wrestling podcast ever. It's bad, but in a good way. You have to listen to it to know exactly what I'm talking about. So go and check that out because it was a hoot. That is all up on Apple Pods and all those places as well. So today I didn't really know what to talk about. So I'm just going to talk about the week that was, because that's just an easy thing. And there's quite a lot of stuff that happened this week that I wouldn't mind sinking my teeth into. But before I do, and because I've been away for a little while, I just have to mention something that has really annoyed me and annoyed a lot of people within the wrestling community. And I haven't had a chance to vent anywhere. And Bill Goldberg as Universal Champion is still really, really bothering me. You know, it's the fact that not only has the moment that he pinned Bray Wyatt and become the Universal Champion in 2020 for no reason at all, really, in the grand scheme of things. I would have been happy if Roman Reigns beat Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania. Yeah, a lot of people would have booed him and, you know, not exactly have been pleasant about it. But I would much rather Roman Reigns beat Bray Wyatt than Goldberg. It just doesn't make any sense to me. But not only do we have Bill Goldberg coming back and beating The Fiend, that alone, let's forget about titles for a second. Throw that Universal title away. It's not even involved. Pretend it's not there. You still have Goldberg as the guy that finally defeated The Fiend. The Fiend has looked invincible. Yes, sure, he's shown a little bit more vulnerability in recent matches, especially against Daniel Bryan. I want to say at the Rumble. Did they have a match at the Rumble? I think they did. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah. He showed a lot more vulnerability there. That still doesn't mean that it was time to end that by some 58-year-old bloke coming back. I don't know how old Goldberg is. I'm sure, actually, that's not that far off. But it's still ridiculous. Like, why, of all people, do you go with Goldberg? And it isn't... This is the annoying thing. It brings up past stuff that he has done, which is equally as annoying. Let's real talk here. Goldberg is not the guy behind all these booking decisions. It's not him. But because he's the guy on the screen and he's the guy holding up the belt, he's the guy who's going to receive the criticism for the most part. So for what it's worth, I don't mind Goldberg as a guy. As a character, as a wrestler, you know, he's a one-trick pony, always has been, but I don't mind him. I just hate the fact that he's come back and derailed Bray's, and specifically The Fiend's momentum but also reminded me of the fact that he did the exact same thing to Kevin Owens at Fastlane like 2-3 years ago, however long it was. That I don't know which one's worse. I can't decide which one is worse. I'm gonna. See, Kevin Owens was like the Kevin Owens things really bothered me because we could have had Jericho versus Owens at WrestleMania for the Universal title, but then the Fiend thing bothers me just as much because it's the Fiend, and it's one of the best things that we've had in WWE in the last God knows how many years. It's been amazing. The Funhouse, the attacks, the look of the character, just everything that he's thrown together since April last year up until Goldberg has been amazing. And then Goldberg struts in and derails that whole thing. It's pretty poor, to be honest. I'm not completely happy with it. I say I'm not completely happy. I'm completely unhappy with it. It winds me up. It annoys me. And now we have Bray versus John Cena at WrestleMania, which, it's not... I don't have any real complaints about it. But at the same time, it's just not what I wanted. It's not what I wanted. This is not how I wanted this to end. People are saying, and this, I hate to be that guy, but you've got people like Bully Ray coming out and saying, look, if you don't get what's going on, then you don't understand wrestling. Like, it's WrestleMania, blah, blah, blah. What? Like, who's the one? Who is out of touch here? Because I don't feel like it's me. I don't feel like it's the majority of the wrestling community, because it's not. Like, the guys from, like, who have been in the industry for so many years now, like, I respect their opinions completely. I really do. So when Bully Ray's coming out with this stuff, I have to respect that opinion, but I couldn't disagree with it more. Like, I don't care that it's WrestleMania season and that you want star power on the show. Now is the time to build stars. It really is. I mean, great that they're doing it with one of my favorites, Drew McIntyre, with Brock Lesnar. That's great. But then you've got things like John Cena, who comes to the ring on SmackDown and he's like, well, I'm not going to be at WrestleMania this year because it gives younger guys in the roster, or up and coming guys on the roster, more chance to shine and have their spot on the card. And then he goes and takes the spot on the card. And I get that you need something on the show that is kind of layered in nostalgia, so that's why we have The Undertaker coming back as well, but not so many, because you've got Goldberg, you've got John Cena, you've got The Undertaker. Is Triple H having a match this year? It doesn't look that way, but it's always a possibility that he's going to have one. So potentially you've got 4 part-timers coming back and wrestling at WrestleMania. That's 4 spots that could have been given to somebody else. And it all starts with Goldberg. And yeah, Goldberg, Universal Champion. Ugh, don't like it. Roman Reigns, take that title from him. I will give you a genuine pop at WrestleMania when you spear the crap out of Goldberg and take that title. Like, I won't boo you. I won't be sour about it. I will accept it because I need it. I don't want that belt around Goldberg's waist any longer than it has to be. But there you go. That's my Goldberg rant out of the way. It's like, ooh, it's got me annoyed. And that's an understatement as well. It really is. And another thing that I actually saw today, which is really sad, actually, is apparently Scott Steiner had some kind of collapse at an Impact taping. I honestly don't know that much about it, apart from that fact that something has happened with Scott. Of course, there's various news stories flying around on social media about what's actually happened. I even saw something that said he was dead, which turned out to be absolute bollocks. But it's still not good. It sucks. I know Scott Steiner or anybody affiliated with Scott Steiner don't listen to this podcast, but it's still terrible to hear when anything like this happens, within the wrestling bubble. We're all fans at the end of the day. Some people obviously take it too far and kind of celebrate the fact that he's had some kind of collapse, which is kind of sick and disturbing. But I wish Scott Steiner all the best and a speedy recovery, and hopefully, hopefully it is a full recovery for him. I don't, like I said, I don't know any of the details behind it. I don't know what's happened, but I do know that there is a serious situation and developing with his health. So pull through, Scott. Pull through. We don't want to see you go. Nobody wants to see anybody in the wrestling biz go. Yeah, let's get that out of the way. Now, this week with wrestling, I just want to talk about the gulf between Raw and SmackDown, because I came back from holiday the weekend just gone. So last weekend I came back. So I was away from wrestling for, I think, two weeks. So I think I missed 2 Raws, 2 SmackDowns, and then 2 NXTs. Excuse me. And I caught up on YouTube on that weekend because I was like, I'm not going to go back and watch the full shows because I just don't have the time. So I got caught up, and certain segments stood out to me. The Randy Orton storyline was progressing. We had a referee come out as a disciple of Seth Rollins. We had Dolph Ziggler carrying on his Mandy Rose pursuit over on SmackDown. We had Goldberg and Reigns confirmed for WrestleMania, which, by the way, is another thing that pissed me off about this situation. The build to a world title match at WrestleMania should be a damn sight more, and should start with more than just going, right, who's next? Somebody comes out, I'm next. Boom, match set for WrestleMania. Come on, just, if you're gonna set up a world title match, make the number one contender challenge for something. Don't just have him come to the ring. Anybody in that SmackDown roster, in theory, if this is how they were going to play it, could have just walked down to that ring. Yeah, I'm next. Yeah, all right. Done. You're in the WrestleMania match. Heath Slater could have gone out there, and we could have had 2 members of 3MB fighting for world titles at WrestleMania. That could have happened. That could have easily happened based on that BS. That's the one thing that annoys me, even now. Have some stakes behind it. No, don't just throw your hat in there and suddenly, boom, you have your opportunity. It shouldn't work like that. There could have been a big build up to this in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the build will be great from here on out up until that match at WrestleMania. I don't know. Apparently, Paul Heyman is running with it in a way. The fact that he's even doing that, from the fact that he's on Raw and this is a SmackDown storyline, I don't know how that works. But apparently he's involved because of his affiliation to both of them. Apparently he's very pally with the both of them. And, if that means we get some good storyline build from now until the match at Mania, great. But the start could have been so much better than just going, I'm next, done, you're in the WrestleMania match. That's another thing I saw on YouTube whilst I was catching up. And there wasn't really that much else that I can remember. Of course, Super Showdown happened, and I honestly don't really know that much about the show. I haven't gone back to watch it. I won't go back and watch it. I don't feel like it's worth my time. I've seen a couple of the results. Brock versus Ricochet. I wished for more, to be honest with you, because Brock, when he's wrestling smaller guys, is a lot of fun. Like that, Brock excels when he, A, cares, and B, he's fighting smaller guys. Like, we've seen that with matches against Finn Balor, AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan. Like, he excels in those match types. But unfortunately, that's not the way they went with the Ricochet thing. They just went for more or less a straight squash. And that works in terms of, realism, storyline. It does work. Ricochet is smaller than Brock Lesnar. Significantly so. But I feel like a bigger and better match could have come out of that situation. But there you go. The result was expected to go Brock Lesnar's way, and it did. So ultimately, it was Super Showdown in Saudi, and who really gives a rat's ass about anything that goes down there? Let's be honest. But that was really it. That's all that really happened whilst I was away. I expected to come back and all this huge stuff had happened, but not really. Not a great deal happened. Not that I remember anyway. But coming to Raw this week, I'm probably going to talk in detail about Orton and the Edge thing, or the Beth Phoenix thing in particular this week. But my favourite storyline outside of that, which I think is the best thing in WWE right now, a very, very, very close second is Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar. Now, this is a build that shows the gulf between Raw and SmackDown. Because you just take the two world title matches away from the shows, put them side by side. I know one's had more build than the other, but it's night and day. It really is night and day. Like, I get that, Drew McIntyre, won the Royal Rumble. He basically won a match stipulation to become the number one contender, but it's A, the Royal Rumble, and B, that the whole storyline was set up before he'd even won that Royal Rumble match. So the build straight away was there by Claymore and Lesnar out of the ring. It's there. They're bang. Straight away, you have stakes. You have the start to a feud. Obviously, Drew went on to win the Rumble match, and that feeds into it even more. That was night one. It wasn't just a case of, yeah, I'm next. You know what I mean? Like, it's frustrating. But it just shows the gulf between Raw and SmackDown, which is so huge. And when I start talking about SmackDown, I will continue to talk about that massive gulf between the two main roster shows. But no, this coming a close second to the Edge Orton storyline that we got going on at the moment is Drew and Brock. I think every single rung of this ladder that is building towards WrestleMania, as we climb each rung, it's getting better and better and better. How good did Drew McIntyre look on Raw this week? He looked like a star. It's been so long since Drew came up to Raw. It just seemed inevitable that he was going to be in this position, but it dragged out for a very long time. He floundered for a little bit, and then he got injured. Then he came back before the Rumble, and then things started to look a lot better. He started squashing decent guys. He gained, he gained a personality. He's always had a personality, but he had that kind of like babyface personality starting to build gradually, organically. That's the important thing, organically, in the background. And then he embraced this countdown gimmick and then turned babyface. And since that moment, he's been riding a huge wave of momentum. Like there seems to be a real push behind Drew right now. And honestly, if he left WrestleMania without the WWE title, I would be shocked, genuinely shocked, because just the way he's being booked at the moment, like he's thrashing Lesnar around. Like he Claymored him 3 times on Raw. Like Lesnar looked like a chump, and it's very rare when people make Lesnar look like that. I applaud Lesnar too, by the way, for his involvement in all of this. Very selfless. His selling has been fantastic as well. You can tell that he's very much into this with Drew, and I say it all the time on this show. Like, I'm a huge fan of Brock Lesnar, and I really think it's his selling, his selflessness. He is selfless when it comes to stuff like this. He's made Drew look so good in this feud so far. Selfless. And people get on his back about, just being part-time and just showing up for the paycheck. Maybe that's the case. Maybe he is. But he's doing the right thing in allowing this match to kind of sell itself just by what they're doing so far. It's not really needed that many promo stuff in the background, video packages, all that kind of stuff. Paul Heyman is hyping it up as only Paul Heyman can. And then you've got the actions of the two guys as well, just selling this match. There's this outside of Edge Orton, this is the match that I'm really looking forward to at WrestleMania. And yeah, it's been built tremendously well. What else happened on Raw that was either good or really bad? Really bad. Ricochet. What happened to Ricochet on Raw this week? There's two sides to this that I've kind of cut. I tried to find reasoning in my head whilst I was watching what went down in his match with Riddick Moss on Raw. This is nothing against Riddick Moss either, but not many people know who he is. He's only just come up from NXT. He's just like a random guy, really. I mean, I know he's got the 24/7 title, but he's just a random dude that's rocked up and beaten Ricochet. It's bizarre. It's when you look at that, if you put that on paper, Riddick Moss versus Ricochet, but Riddick Moss has in brackets defeats in front of his name. Riddick Moss defeats Ricochet. Insane. It doesn't make any sense to me why they went down this road. Now, that's my initial reaction to this whole thing is, what the hell is going on? You've got people speculating that Vince has given up on Ricochet. I mean, I've seen that. I put out some frustration about it earlier this week on the socials. Excuse me. I see this story every single day. Vince has given up on Wrestler X. Vince has given up on Wrestler Y. Vince has given up on Wrestler Z. No, just stop with the speculation of all this stuff. Maybe there's a reason behind it. And that's where I went. Initially, I was like, I cannot believe this has just happened. It's Ricochet. He's one of the most talented guys on this roster, and you have him losing to this guy who's just randomly shown up on Raw as Mojo Rawley's lackey. And now he's beaten Ricochet, just 2-3 weeks later. But then you got to think, it was only, 4 or 5 days before this that Ricochet got squashed by Lesnar. So maybe he's selling the effects of that match, and maybe that's eating away at him. He had this opportunity at the WWE title, that moment he finally had in the palm of his hands, and he failed. He didn't even make a good go of it. He's disappointed in himself. He feels down on his luck. And maybe psychologically that's playing on his mind, and obviously ultimately led to him losing a match against somebody he really should be beating. So maybe from a storyline perspective, that's where they're going with this. So there's things that people need to think about. There's always that impulse reaction. Always an impulse reaction. Every single wrestling fan on this planet has that impulse reaction. I do. When Goldberg pinned Bray Wyatt for the Universal title, everybody had that impulse reaction of, this is complete BS. And some people took it further. Some people went, well, I'm done with WWE, or I'm done with SmackDown. I'm not going to watch it anymore. And some people went even further than that and just went, right, I'm cancelling my network subscription and I'm just purely going to be AEW, Impact, NWA, Ring of Honor, New Japan, whatever. Done with WWE. There is always that impulse reaction, but then you've got to kind of think, why have they done this? I mean, with Goldberg, I'm still trying to figure that one out. But at least I'm still trying to figure it out. There's always that two-stage thing with anything that happens in WWE. And that's why I came to Ricochet. It was ridiculous that he was bested by Riddick Moss, but what is the reason behind it? Why? That's the question you always got to ask yourself. Why is this happening? And I do honestly think it's part of a storyline where he's kind of just shut up about this whole Brock Lesnar match. You know, I think it's as simple as that. I hope that's what it is, and not what, you know, everybody's been screaming about on social media. I'm trying to remember what else happened on Raw. Street Profits are the new tag team champions. Amazing, fantastic. I love the Street Profits, so that's really cool. It's good to see. Don't want to see it again. Elimination Chamber. No. What happened to this no rematch clause thing that is apparently something that exists? Buddy Murphy, Seth Rollins have a tag team match for the titles at Elimination Chamber. Why? Can we not just do something fresh? Please. I would appreciate that a lot. It is what it is. Like it just seems like they've been on this little roundabout together, and it just seems circling, and then it kind of builds. Oh yeah, Street Profits have finally overcome, and they kind of gave it away with this whole last chance stipulation thing. Oh yeah, they're never going to get another chance at the tag team titles as long as Seth Rollins and Murphy have it. Well, that probably means they're going to win. Just leave it at that. Don't need any more. Just leave it at that. But no, that's the way they've gone, and I'm sure Street Profits will retain on Sunday, or today, or yesterday. Whenever you listen to this thing, chances are the Elimination Chamber has already happened, so they've probably already retained. So there you go. And then, I mean, the big thing coming out of Raw really was Randy Orton RKOing Beth Phoenix in an amazing segment. This is the storyline that is WrestleMania. This is the storyline going into WrestleMania. It's fantastic. Edge hasn't even been here. He came back at the Rumble, did his little bit on Raw. Orton attacked him. We haven't seen him since. Orton has sold this feud all on his own with the help of Matt Hardy, with the help of Beth this week. Next week, Edge is back. Like I'm so excited for this thing to keep going, and I think we've got 5-6 weeks until WrestleMania, so that's 5 or 6 more Raws of this storyline building. Maybe it'll even bleed into NXT. I hope it does. I think that'd be really good for NXT to have, you know, this little bit of a boost with the best storyline going on, main roster wise anyway, within WWE. A lot of people complaining that Randy RKO'd Beth. I personally, I'm the guy who, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of intergender wrestling, and not because I think it's, you know, unrealistic or any of that stuff. It's just not something that I clamor for. If it happens, then, you know, so be it. I don't really care. I'd rather it be more where the women do get involved and fight the guys, rather than like when we had Mixed Match Challenge where none of the guys could fight the girls and vice versa. It's just silly. I don't get the point in it. If you're going to have a mixed gender match, just have everyone go at it. A lot of people complaining that Beth ate an RKO. Like, why? Why are you complaining about that? Beth Phoenix is a professional wrestler. She had a professional wrestling move done on her. She sold it very, very well. She took it very, very well. Like, just because it's a guy faking a move to a woman, like, it does. Oh, it winds me up that so many people get so sensitive with that kind of stuff. I just don't understand. I watched Nia Jax's involvement in the Men's Royal Rumble a couple of days ago, actually, where she ate stuff from Rey Mysterio and Randy Orton and somebody else. You know, it's frustrating that people are so sensitive about this kind of thing, because this has fed into the storyline massively so, and people are putting a damper on it, you know, and I'm not a fan of that. I'm not a fan of people dampening my enjoyment of things. Not into that. Not a fan. But no, like the best acting about the whole thing, and Randy saying that he loves Edge and the kids more than she does, and all that stuff. Like, it's all feeding into this fantastic storyline, and then it's going to... I believe the direction they're going in is Edge is going to wrestle Orton against Doctor's wishes, which potentially could mean that we get a unsanctioned match at Mania, which could be fun. I'm all for that. If WWE, want to play that card and go, oh yeah, like we don't want to attach our names to this kind of thing, even though they put it on the WrestleMania card, but whatever, wrestling. I think that'd be a cool way to go with it. If Edge is wrestling against Doctor's orders and all that kind of stuff, have them wrestle in an unsanctioned match with weapons and stuff like that. I think that's just naturally where this thing will go. It's a blood feud. It's personal. Edge is going to want to seek revenge, not only for his attack on himself, but his friend Matt Hardy and his wife. And who knows what else is going to get involved. Is Christian going to get involved in this storyline at some point? Because that would be really exciting if Christian threw his hat in the ring for this. It seems logical, and it just seems like the natural way to go. But can Christian be physical? I don't know. So that could be a stopping block there. We don't know. But to have Christian involved in this feud would boost it even more. So if we do see that, I'll be a very happy man. I will be a very happy man. Now, going into the rest of the week, obviously I want to talk about the gulf between the two main roster shows, but I want to talk briefly about NXT. I didn't really get to watch most of it. I didn't really get to invest into NXT because I was doing stuff, around watching it. But the match that I did sit down and make sure I watched, because it was at the start of the show, which made it a lot easier, was the Tegan Nox Dakota Kai cage match. It was great. Those two are having such a great little rivalry together. Going back from, when they were friends, to the attack at War Games last year. Then you had the match at TakeOver Phoenix. Was it Phoenix? Where they just were? Yeah, TakeOver Phoenix. That was a great match, that street fight. How good was that? And then they go into this cage match this week, and obviously it ended with shenanigans. She got caught in the door, allowing Dakota Kai to sneak her way out and pick up the win. So this thing looks like it's going to continue. I'm excited for this thing to continue. This was a really, really good cage match. And these two women, it's International Women's Day as I record this. And, them two deserve some massive praise. Like, I've seen so many things on social media today about International Women's Day, relating to wrestling, and what people are talking about and stuff like that, whether they're talking about, Becky or Shayna or Bayley or, whatever. Nobody's talking about Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai, and I think that's really unfair because they are killing it. And further proving, by the way, that NXT has the best women's division on this planet. It's deep, that roster. It's deep. You've got Rhea Ripley on top, Bianca Belair just below that. You got the likes of Io Shirai, one of the best wrestlers on this planet. You got Tegan and Dakota absolutely going at it. And then just everybody kind of in between, kind of dotted around. It's a great women's division down in NXT. It really is. And Tegan Nox and Dakota Kai are a huge part of that. And that cage match was amazing. I didn't really get to watch the second cage match, Roddy Strong versus Velveteen Dream. So I don't really know what to talk about based on that, because I don't really know. I don't even know who ended up winning that match. I think Velveteen Dream won. I'm not sure. I was in the kitchen whilst it was on in the living room, so I'm not sure. And then it looks like we're going to have Walter versus Finn Balor as well. Like, this is what I like about NXT. They throw situations together that I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know. I don't know what the outcome will be between Balor and Walter. I don't know what should happen as the outcome between Balor and Walter. Finn Balor is on the run of his WWE career. Like, arguably, this is the best he's looked in so many years. Walter is the United Kingdom champion, so you've got that going on too. Like, who loses this? It's a tough one, and they're both heels. So again, why is it happening? I don't care that it's happening because I'm all in. But it's unpredictable. That's the main thing. It's unpredictable. That's what I like about NXT. What else happened on NXT that was really good? Johnny Gargano's sit-down interview with Mauro Ranallo. That whole thing was so good. Like, Ranallo was amazing in his role, and we don't see him do that stuff that often, but he was amazing in that segment. Johnny Gargano was fantastic in that segment too. Like, if you haven't watched that promo or that interview segment, like, please go back and watch it. Like, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen much hype about it on social media, so maybe it's actually just me who really enjoyed it, but it just seemed to be, I don't know, like, I remember watching it, and even with all the distractions going on around me, like, I was locked on the TV screen. Like, I needed to go in off and do stuff, and I was like, no, I'm waiting for this to finish. I'm in this. Like, I'm invested in what's going on my screen. It was a great little segment, and it just feeds into everything. You know, Ranallo has been the voice of NXT for so long now. You know, he's had plenty of time to heap praise on Gargano over that period of time. You know, and now obviously Gargano's turned his back on Ciampa, you know, cost him the title. And Ranallo's obviously commentating on that, talking about it. Johnny Turncoat and all this kind of stuff. And Johnny's picked up on that. And you have this feeding in together. Like, this is where NXT excels. They bring other influences in that you wouldn't really see on the main roster. Like, you wouldn't really see somebody call out Michael Cole for, you know, trashing them on commentary or whatever. In NXT, gloves are off. That kind of stuff can happen. And yeah, it was such a good, really, really good interview segment there. So if you haven't seen it, go check that out. But that was NXT as far as I remember. I know obviously more stuff happened. I just don't remember it. But then we go to SmackDown. And meh. What happened on SmackDown, guys? I honestly don't know. SmackDown, out of everything I talked about today, is the most recent thing that's happened, and I can't tell you that much that happened. The NWO were there. You know, that whole segment was a bit awkward, I would say. It was a little bit awkward. You know, it didn't hit the right notes. Anyway, I mean, I love hearing that music hit. You know, give me NWO's music any day of the week. You know, that bit was really cool. Loved that. But the whole segment was just awkward. I'm not into this Sami Zayn, Cesaro, Nakamura 3-on-1 handicap match against Braun. I'm not into it. I don't really care what the outcome is at Elimination Chamber. Much in a way that I don't really care about anything that happens at Elimination Chamber, because the build to this pay-per-view has been terrible, and I'm actually not going to watch it. Obviously, by the time you're listening to this, chances are it's already been and gone. I'm not doing any predictions on it. I'm not doing any review of it. I will watch it when I watch it. I'll probably watch it over the Monday and Tuesday. I record this on a Sunday. I'm not that bothered about it. Genuinely not that bothered about it. And SmackDown's, I mean, obviously Raw plays a part, but SmackDown, it just doesn't seem to have much going on. Like, it's supposedly the flagship of WWE now because of this Fox move, and I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing an upturn in quality. I'm not seeing a quality that we used to see with SmackDown Live when it first came into when it first came to be. SmackDown Live was amazing when it first started. It had its lulls, you know, as it went on, but then I think it made a return to form at one point, and then moved to Fox, and things have declined quite a lot. You know, ratings are decent. You know, it's the number one show, but Raw is just in another league. Like, I enjoy watching Raw every single week. There's something that happens on Raw, numerous things that happen on Raw that catch my attention, that I enjoy, that I love. You know, I mean, this week alone we had, you know, Drew, the Drew and Brock stuff, the Orton and Beth Phoenix stuff. We had Street Profits winning the tag team titles. You know, stuff like that. It engages me. I enjoy it. And then on the SmackDown side, I think it's just like, you know, what's going on? Nothing. Nothing is happening. Nothing is happening on SmackDown worthy of anything. Nothing of note. The gauntlet match, I skipped the majority of that gauntlet match. I don't care. I honestly didn't give a flip. to be honest, I didn't care about that gauntlet match. I fast forwarded through, the majority of it. The Firefly Funhouse. I mean, I enjoyed the Firefly Funhouse. I always enjoy the Firefly Funhouse, so that's kind of its own thing. I enjoyed that. But still, it was just kind of, all right, okay, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena, WrestleMania, woohoo. And the women's matches were just kind of like, all right, okay, well, these things are happening. And then Bayley and Sasha were like, oh, let's take the rest of the, whatever. I don't care. Nothing on SmackDown is making me care. Even the Mandy Rose Otis stuff, I don't care about it anymore. You threw Dolph Ziggler in there, which was random, but it advanced the feud a little bit. Well, not the feud, but the storyline. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, what now? What now? I just don't care about SmackDown, which is annoying because SmackDown has always been my show. Not my show, but my show. I've always watched it. I've always been a fan of SmackDown. SmackDown has always been the superior show to Raw. I've always been loyal to SmackDown. But I just can't defend SmackDown. I could actually go and not watch SmackDown, and I don't think I would miss anything, to be honest with you. The gulf between Raw and SmackDown is huge, guys. Like, it's so big. I hope if somebody is listening to this that can vouch for SmackDown in any way and kind of make me see the light, make me see something that flicks a light bulb on in my head, and I go, actually, SmackDown isn't that bad. If anybody like that is listening to this right now, please get on the comments on my social media at Dits on Wrestling. Find the post that is this episode of the show and comment on it and just tell me, point me in the direction of something that is good, because I would love to sit back and enjoy SmackDown, but I'm struggling every single week, and it's been like that for months. Not just a couple of weeks, months it's been since I've really invested in an episode of SmackDown. It shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't. But that's where we are. That is where we are with WWE. I'm not the only person that thinks that. There's plenty of other people who know that SmackDown isn't as good as it should be. Like the spotlight is on SmackDown. It's with Fox. There's so much money has gone into this thing on Fox, or part of that. Part of that deal. So much money is involved, and so little effort. It's disappointing. That's all. It's disappointing. But that was the week of wrestling, really, in a nutshell. It's been a while since I've looked back through the week of wrestling. Obviously, I used to do the highlight stuff, so it's been fun. Recapping the week a little bit. Next week, I don't know what I'm going to be doing next week yet. Keep an eye out on socials to find out what I end up doing. I believe... Oh, actually, I might have a guest on next week, I might have a guest on next week. I'll have to double check my diary. I'm terrible when it comes to keeping up with who's coming on this show or what shows I'm going on. It's ridiculous. But it's going to be a good show anyway. It's going to be a good show regardless. You know this show's good. This is grade A content that you're getting every single week over on DOWPOD, over on HMS DOWPOD, the Royal Navy's only pro wrestling pod. Probably, I don't care if somebody else does it, it's mine. I'm the only Royal Navy wrestling podcast, that's it. Gar. And don't you just love the fact that WrestleMania is nautically themed? Huh? It's just... I've got the DOWPOD, which is nautically themed. I've got WrestleMania, that's nautically themed. Just put them together, and it's magic. It's meant to be. I should be at WrestleMania this year, and I'm not. Good God, this was the one. This is the one I should have been at, representing the Pirates. Come on. One day, I will get to WrestleMania. Fingers crossed. Now, before I go, and start plugging everything. Big news, which has been around for, a little while now. If you don't know about it, allow me to drop the bombshell. Josh Robinson, big friend of the show. You've seen him on the show a couple of times. He's always around, and even Dits on wrestling based. He's always there. He unveiled the Josh Robinson 00 network this past week, which is basically his, it's his network, obviously, with some new shows, existing shows, so like Wrestling Reverb and the Josh Robinson show, and then he's got something with his brother-in-law that he's going to be doing. But the one that I'm interested in, and the one that you should be interested in, is the return of Dits versus Josh. Yes, it's back, and it starts next week. Monday the 14th, I want to say. I might have got that wrong. I'm not sure. It might be the 16th. It probably is the 16th. I'm going with the 16th. March 16th. It's whatever the Monday is. Whatever next Monday is when Dits versus Josh is back. I'm very excited to do this because we only did 4 or 5 episodes on our first run. This was July last year, going into August last year, I think it was. But we really enjoyed it. And then life just got in the way, and then it just kind of fell to one side. But Dits versus Josh is back. It is something more for me to sink my teeth into. It is my SmackDown versus Josh's Raw, going through the Ruthless Aggression era. And this first episode, the return episode, is Backlash 2002, a review of that show, before we go back into facing off against each other. It's going to be a lot of fun. I will plug this again next week on next week's show, so you know it's happening. But I'm really excited about doing it again. It's I always love collaborating with Josh. So now I have an opportunity to do that every single week, and hopefully it'll be a bright spot on his network. That's the cool thing, that outside obviously his brother-in-law, but when you look at what else he's got on there, he's got his obviously Wrestling Reverb with Kevin. That's just been a constant anyway, but now that I've been thrust in there as part of this network too, that's really cool. I'm really glad that he's approached me and asked me to get back amongst it. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. So I hope that you guys jump in on that too, because it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, if that's not enough for you with not only this show, but with Dits versus Josh as well, I do have a YouTube channel as well where I do wrestling content and gaming content. So go and check that out. Dits on YouTube. Please go and subscribe to that. I'm nearly at 50 subscribers now, so that'd be really cool to get to 50 subscribers before WrestleMania. That's the goal. That's the aim. I believe I'm at 42. So all I need is 8 more. 8 more people. If you're not subscribed to Dits on YouTube, type that into YouTube, and there I'll be. Subscribe. Because all this content goes on there, and original exclusive to Dits on YouTube content as well. So you'll want to go check that out. Then, of course, you can find this podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. That's a new one. Apparently, I thought I was already on there, but I actually got an email the other day saying, "Oh yeah, you're now part of iHeartRadio." I was like, "Oh, I thought I already was." But there you go. Officially, I am part of iHeartRadio now as well. And then a host of other podcasting apps and the like. So make sure you go follow me on any of those, subscribe to me on any of those, so you never miss an episode. But it's been really, really fun getting back in front of this microphone again. I hope to be more consistent with it going forward. I love podcasting. I love talking about wrestling, and I ain't going away anytime soon. So I hope you stick around and join me on that journey, because hey, it's the 1-year anniversary coming up next month. So you ain't going to want to miss that. And this is where it's just like a recap of the week episode. It probably will be, knowing me. And no, like, come on, get on board for the journey, because I'm going 200% into this content creation stuff now. So you don't want to miss out on what I've got planned. No, you do not. Thank you very much for listening this week. I hope you enjoyed Elimination Chamber, or about to enjoy Elimination Chamber. Hopefully it was a good show for you. Hopefully WWE proved me wrong and actually make it a worthwhile show. We'll see. I'm sure I'll talk about next week on next week's show. But until then, have a great week. Ciao, ciao for now.